People don't treat you badly by accident. You've taught them it's okay. Every time you laugh off a rude comment, say yes when you mean no, or stay silent when someone crosses the line, you're training them to see you as less. I lived that cycle for years, and it crushed my confidence. But the truth is, changing how people see you doesn't take years. It starts with a few simple shifts. So here are the 7 psychological triggers that will completely flip how people treat you, starting today. Step 1, stop being predictable. Humans are categorization machines. Within the first few interactions, they file you into a mental box labeled safe, boring, or pushover. Once you're in that box, you stay there. If you've spent months or years being the agreeable one who always compromises and never rocks the boat, you've unconsciously established a pattern that others have come to expect. When your responses become predictable, we often receive predictable treatment in return. Your first move, shock the system. Do one thing that completely contradicts the version of yourself people think they know. Let me tell you, when I was dealing with difficult clients, I used to accommodate every request. Then one day, a client demanded a complete project overhaul 2 days before the deadline. Instead of my usual, sure, let me see what I can do, I said, I understand you want changes, but that timeline isn't realistic. We can discuss a revised scope and deadline, or we can stick with the current plan. The result, they respected the boundary, agreed to the original timeline, and from that day forward, treated me like a professional instead of a pushover. When you break predictable patterns, you trigger what psychologists call pattern interruption. The human brain, wired to predict and categorize, must suddenly reassess and recalibrate. This momentary confusion creates an opening where new respect can take root. Consider the always quiet person in group settings who suddenly speaks up with conviction, or the chronic people pleaser who says, I can't make it tonight, but let's plan something for next weekend, instead of forcing themselves to attend when exhausted. The shift forces others to see you as a complete person rather than a convenient stereotype. This isn't about becoming difficult or confrontational. It's about establishing that you have agency, that you have boundaries. When people can predict your every response, they lose respect for your autonomy. By introducing controlled unpredictability, you force them to acknowledge your full humanity. Before I show you the subtle shift that instantly flips the way people respond to you, I want to clear up a real issue. The reason you keep getting pushed aside isn't your skill, it's that your constant availability shows people exactly where they rank you. Which brings us to step 2, act like you're busy. Being constantly available can inadvertently signal that our time isn't highly valued. When you're constantly available, respond to texts immediately and drop everything the moment someone needs something. You're not being helpful, you're being forgettable. You're training people to treat your time like it has zero value. I used to answer business calls on the first ring, reply to emails within minutes, and rearrange my entire schedule for anyone who asked. I thought it showed dedication. What it actually showed was desperation. The shift came when I started acting like someone who had options. When someone called my name across the office, instead of snapping to attention like an eager intern, I'd finish my current thought, then look up calmly. When I walked into networking events, instead of scanning the room desperately for someone to talk to, I'd walk with purpose, like I belonged there. The change was immediate. People started treating my time with more respect because I was treating it with respect first. Human psychology operates on scarcity principles. What's abundant feels worthless. What's limited feels precious. Making yourself endlessly available is like saying your time, energy, and attention aren't valuable, that nothing else is competing for them. You become the conversational equivalent of fast food, convenient, predictable, and ultimately undervalued. The most respected professionals operate with what appears to be controlled unavailability. They don't ignore people, but they respond thoughtfully rather than reflexively. They create natural delays that signal their time is allocated, not just sitting idle, waiting for interruption. Before we go deeper, I want to hear from you. Have you ever noticed how differently people treat you when you're busy versus when you seem to have all the time in the world? Drop a comment below and share your experience, whether it's in business, relationships, or social situations. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to make this shift themselves. Step 3, stop saying sorry all the time. If you're apologizing every 5 minutes, you're programming people to treat you like an inconvenience. Sorry I'm late. Sorry to bother you. Sorry, just my opinion, but sorry for taking up your time. Every time you apologize when you don't need to, what people actually hear is, I'm a burden. I don't really deserve to be here. During my first year in business, I apologized for everything. I was so focused on not offending anyone that I forgot to command any respect. The reframe that changed everything. Instead of, sorry I'm late, say, thanks for waiting. Instead of, sorry to bother you, try, "Do you have a quick minute?" Instead of "Sorry, but I think," say, "Here's my take on this." Chronic apologizing creates a feedback loop in both your brain and others' brains. When you keep saying sorry all the time, you train your brain to feel shame and not good enough. Meanwhile, you train others to associate your presence with disruption and inconvenience. People respond to confidence cues at a subconscious level. When someone consistently positions themselves as the problem, others begin to see them as one. The apologetic person becomes background noise, present but not particularly important. Professional communicators understand that every interaction is an exchange of value. The most respected people in any room operate from the assumption that their presence adds value. They don't apologize for taking up space because they understand that their thoughts, questions, and contributions have inherent worth. It's basic self-respect translated into language. When you stop apologizing for existing, people stop seeing your existence as something that needs an apology. In just a moment, I'm going to share the single most powerful psychological trigger that will make people instantly see you as someone who can't be taken for granted. But first, let me tell you about the strategic advantage you can build starting today. By now, you can probably see a pattern. It's not always about doing more, sometimes it's about doing less, and that's where step 4 comes in. Learn to pause. Let me tell you, having the confidence to not say anything at all is more powerful than having the perfect thing to say. Most people can't handle silence. The second there's a pause in conversation, they panic and rush to fill it with nervous rambling. They over-explain, backtrack, and seek validation. That's exactly why they get walked over, because they sound unsure, insecure, and easily manipulated. The next time someone asks you a question, pause for 2 seconds before answering. Not 10 seconds, just a brief, confident pause while you gather your thoughts. When I started doing this, everything changed. Instead of blurting out the first thing that came to mind, I'd pause, consider my response, then speak with intention. People were leaning in when I talked instead of checking their phones. When you speak too quickly, it looks like you're seeking approval. When you take your time, you look like you give approval. That small change can completely affect how people see your confidence and authority. Instant responses signal anxiety and desperation for acceptance. Your brain, in rush mode, produces thoughts focused on avoiding conflict rather than providing value. The pause breaks this cycle, allowing your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for strategic thinking, to engage before your mouth does. Silence is a form of emotional regulation that others can sense. When you're comfortable with a pause, you demonstrate that you're not reactive, not desperate to fill space, and not dependent on constant verbal validation. You signal that your words, when they come, are chosen rather than reflexive. People unconsciously respect those who appear to think before they speak because it suggests depth, consideration, and self-control, all markers of someone worth listening to. My friend, if you've been following my channel for a while, you know how passionate I am about growth, both personal and professional. But sometimes, the real journey happens off-screen, and I want to keep sharing that deeper side with you. Over on my Substack, I'm diving into more intimate stories, strategies for mental wellness, and personal development tips that I can't always fit into my videos. If it feels right, click the link below, and let's keep pushing forward together. So here's step 5, be ready to leave. There's a truth nobody wants to admit. The person who needs something the least has the most power in any relationship. Think about the difference between 2 employees. One desperately needs the job and will tolerate any treatment to keep it. The other knows their worth and would walk away if they weren't treated with respect. Which one gets promoted? The second one, every time. I learned this when a potential client tried to lowball my rates for a project. The old me would have negotiated down, grateful for any opportunity. Instead, I said, "I understand that's your budget, but that doesn't align with the value I provide." They called back the next day and agreed to my original rate. That's the power of being willing to walk away. It shows that you have standards, that you value yourself, and that you have other options. Even if you don't actually have other options yet, carrying yourself like someone who does will change how people treat you instantly. When you signal that you need something desperately, you hand over all negotiating power. Desperation is visible in micro-expressions, tone of voice, and body language. People sense it unconsciously and adjust their behavior accordingly. They offer less because they know you'll accept less. Walkaway power isn't about being difficult or unreasonable. It's about establishing that you have standards and boundaries that aren't negotiable simply because someone else wants to negotiate them. Being willing to walk away usually means you won't have to. When people see that you have other options, or at least the confidence that you know your worth, they're more likely to respect your standards instead of pushing your limits. This isn't manipulation, it's authentic self-respect translated into action. When you truly believe you deserve better treatment, that belief becomes evident in how you carry yourself. even if you don't actually have other options yet. Carrying yourself like someone who does will change how people treat you. People praise those who respect themselves enough to have non-negotiable standards. The person who stands firm on their worth forces others to take that worth seriously. This self-respect becomes the foundation of something even more powerful, a presence that commands attention without demanding it. Step 6, gain respect without forcing it. Here's nobody telling you, my friend. Before you even speak, people have already decided how much they respect you. It's all about your invisible authority, the energy you project through how you move, speak, and show up. You know that person who walks into a room and everyone pays attention? They're not doing anything dramatic. They just carry themselves like they belong there. Respect doesn't come from being clever or loud. I used to think the same way. People read your body language constantly, how you walk, if you make eye contact, your voice tone, even how you sit. If you say, "I'm confident," but you're slouched over avoiding eye contact, they believe what they see, not what you say. I would slouch in meetings and nod excessively, thinking it made me look engaged. Really, it made me look desperate for approval. The second I started sitting up straight, speaking slower, and holding eye contact longer, everything changed. People stopped cutting me off. They actually listened. Same knowledge, completely different energy. Your handshake, the way your voice falls at the end of a sentence, or checking your phone while someone's talking, all of that shows people how to treat you without you saying anything. These tiny signals work quietly, but shape every interaction. Your outside must match how you see yourself inside. The energy you project returns to you multiplied. When you carry yourself with quiet authority, people respond with automatic respect. Doors open easier. Conversations flow better. People treat you well because everything about you communicates worth. These strategies create something powerful, but one final shift ties everything together, the most important change of all. Here's step 7, change how you think. My friend, you have to stop waiting for people to give you kindness and start demanding it through your actions. Respect isn't something you ask for, it's something you command through how you show up in the world. Stop being the person who always agrees just to keep the peace. Stop over-apologizing for having opinions. Stop rushing to fill every silence with nervous chatter. Stop acting like you're grateful just to be included. Be the person who shows up with quiet confidence. Be someone who speaks with intention, who values their own time, who isn't afraid to disagree when it matters. Be someone who has standards and isn't afraid to maintain them. Respect operates on a simple principle. People treat you the way you teach them to treat you. Every time you accept poor treatment without pushback, you're providing a masterclass in how little regard you have for your own worth. The shift from seeking appreciation to commanding it requires internal transformation. You must genuinely believe that your time, opinions, and presence have value before others will recognize that value. This isn't about building a big ego, it's about learning real self-respect, which shapes how others see and treat you. These 7 strategies aren't just about getting better treatment from others, though you will. They fundamentally change how you see yourself. When I started my business, I saw myself as lucky to get any clients. I was grateful for scraps. But when I implemented these principles, something shifted. I started seeing myself as someone who provided value, whose time mattered, who was worth respecting. Once you see yourself that way, everyone else follows. It's like you're broadcasting a different frequency, and people automatically tune into it. Your energy changes, your posture shifts, even your voice sounds different. People can sense when someone truly respects themselves. It's magnetic and commanding in the best way possible. Moving forward, I want you to pick one strategy and implement it this week. Stop the unnecessary apologies. Take that pause before responding. Set a boundary you've been avoiding. Do it once and really watch the response. I guarantee you'll see a shift in how people interact with you. They'll start checking themselves before making unreasonable requests. The lesson here is simple. Small changes create big ripples. Master that first change, then gradually add another. Before you know it, you'll naturally carry yourself like someone who can't be taken for granted, because you simply won't be. Not everyone will like this new version of you. Some people get comfortable treating you a certain way. When you change the dynamic, they'll push back. That's not a bug in the system, it's actually a feature. The people who get legitimately upset when you start respecting yourself are exactly the ones you needed boundaries with in the first place. They benefited from your people-pleasing, and now their free ride is over. Their negative reaction is confirmation you're doing something right. Meanwhile, the right people, the ones worth keeping around, will actually respect you more for having standards. They'll appreciate that you value yourself enough to demand better treatment. Quality people want to be around other quality people who know their worth. My friend, people will only rise to the standard you set. Lower the bar and they'll crawl. raise it, and they'll climb. Respect isn't handed out to the nicest person in the room, it's given to the one who refuses to be taken for granted. That's why the real power isn't in convincing anyone. It's in having the backbone to walk away, the patience to say nothing, and the discipline to never break your own rules. Because when you finally stop playing small, that's when people start paying attention, and they won't even know what changed. If you found this video helpful, this next video right here will take you even further. Your choice, your life. Start now.